Hey, what's happening, everybody? So we're going to be talking about the gathering stitch. Yeah, so we have this panel over here, and then we have the top panel over here. What we want to achieve is to gather this edge here so that it can fit into that space. Yeah, so how do we go about gathering this fabric? The pattern in class that you've cut looks like this. One side we have to gather 4 centimeter, and the other side we have to gather 4 centimeter, and once we have gathered that 4 centimeter, it will then fit into that space. Yeah, alright, so what I've done is I've created a center line, and I have created a center point on the top panel so that I know exactly where to connect the two, and then it's easy for me to gather and check how to fit it into that space. Yeah. What we're going to be doing is a manual gather, where you do a stay stitch on the top, and then you pull the thread on one side, and then you gather your 4 centimeters towards the midpoint, and then you pull the thread on the other side so that you can gather the other 4 centimeters so that you can fit into that space. Alright, so we're going to head over to the sewing machine, and we're going to do this in real time so that you guys can follow along. Alright, let's get to the sewing machine real quick. Alright, so after you have switched on your sewing machine, we're going to turn your stitch length dial to the highest number. So mine is currently on 2.5. We want to turn to 5. And if you are sewing on a domestic machine, your highest number might be 4, right? So turn it to the highest stitch length dial, and then we're going to head back to sewing. Make sure that you pull out a few centimeters of your thread. So here we have the needle thread and the bobbin thread, and you want to have at least about 10 centimeter thread on both of them. Push your thread through the foot towards the back, lower the foot on top of the fabric. We're going to sew 5 millimeter from the edge, and because this is a temporary stitch, we are not going to do a back tack stitch. So lower your needle into the fabric, and we're going to start sewing from the start of that panel all the way to the end of the panel without back tacking. So here we go. All the way to the end of the fabric, and when you get to the end of the fabric, lift your needle to the highest point, and then remove the fabric. And you want to have about 10 centimeters at the end as well. Grab your scissor, cut the thread, and this is what we have, people. So there's the end of the fabric with about 10 centimeter thread on both the needle and the bobbin, and on this other side as well. So how are we going to create this gathering stitch? So we're going to separate the thread, separate the bobbin thread and the needle thread, and we're going to hold one piece of thread in our hand or wrapped around our fingers, and with the other hand we're just going to pull and gather towards the middle point. And that is essentially how we create the manual gathers. Yeah, all the way to the middle point, I'm only pulling one line of thread. You can either decide to pull the top thread or the bottom thread. At this point in time, it might even be helpful to have your other panel close by so that you know exactly how much to gather. We already know we need to gather 4 centimeters, but it's good to just have the panel close by so you can match up the center points and just gather to fit that space. There we go. As you can see, people, so that's the 4 centimeters gathered. It looks a bit rough on here. What we can then do after we get the right amount of gathers, we can just spread out the gathers evenly within that space, right? So once you have the gathers and it fits that space, grab both threads, top and bottom, and make a knot, because if you don't secure the threads, the gathers oftentimes pop out. So I'm making a little knot, not too tight, just to secure the gathers. And now I can sort of play around with the gathers and even them out to fit that space. There we go. That's the first half, and we're gonna do the same on the second half. Alright, let me pause the video real quick and just do it and show you guys how it looks. Alright people, so I've done the other side as well. So there we go. Everything is nice and lined up and evenly spread. Keep in mind that these are manual gathers, so you won't have a consistency in your gathers. You can of course purchase yourself a gathering foot, and then you can gather a consistent gathering with the foot, or you can just jab a needle in the foot and you can have a gathers. But we wanted to do a manual gather so that you can get your fingers familiarized with how to gather the fabric. Alright, so this is manual gathers, yeah. Right, once we have done the gathers, we're going to take the other panel and we're going to put right sides together so that we can finish off that seam. So here's my top panel, and all I'm going to do is place right side to right side, and I'm going to line up these center points. So there's my center point, here's my other center point. Can put a pin over there, and then I'm going to sew all of this together real quick. Line them up, and our seam allowance is 1 centimeter, yeah. So 1 centimeter seam allowance, place them under the foot. And because we're going to do a permanent stitch, we want to turn our stitch length dial back to 2.5. So turn it back to 2.5, because you're going to do a permanent stitch now, yeah. Place the fabric under your foot, lower your needle into the fabric and line up these bits. Do a back tack because it's a permanent stitch. So 1, 2, 3 to the front, 1, 2, 3, reverse. Back tack at the end, 1 to 3, 1 to 3. And there's our gathering stitch. And then here we're going to just overlock the raw edge. Go to the overlocker, overlock the raw edge, and iron your skirt or your dress flat. Alright people, and that is our gathering stitch. I'll catch you guys in the next one.